What's going on YouTube? It's Brazen back here with another video for you guys. If you guys are enjoying the content, if you guys want to hit a like down below, subscribe if you guys are new here, and leave a comment letting me know you subscribe so I can welcome you to the family. And that being said, cue intro. What's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Madden 21 video for you guys here today. So we did get a lot of news on the deep dive from the stream that they already posted last night. I believe it was 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time that they posted the stream. And we got a lot of news on the beta and basically just new things that are coming in Madden 21. So for this video, I'm not going to put a webcam, because I was thinking the ones that are on the computer for more just information based, it's probably good if I don't block it. Just let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. But I just personally think it's probably better not to block it. So just quick news on the beta. It was delayed a little bit. I don't believe they've said when it will actually come out, but they did delay it. I believe it was supposed to come out today, unfortunately, and it is not. So hopefully they don't do it next week, because I will not be in town starting Wednesday. That being said though, guys, I am going to go ahead and read off everything else that we have gotten so far. So first off is the run defense. Simply put, stopping the run game in Madden 20 was too difficult for most. Definitely agreed. Madden 21, we aim for a more balanced run-pass ratio. So we made improvements to our run fits and defensive gap system, with a strong emphasis on the force defender, who is the defender responsible for setting the edge versus the run. Now, that sounds amazing. So we're going to go ahead and read off what they actually changed. So force defenders aligned on the line of scrimmage at the snap will use wider angles at the start of the play to show more anticipation and better pursuit prediction to set the edge versus outside running plays, which is huge because that is a big issue. Which force defenders, what that means is basically, let's say it's almost like a DN contain on a pass play, right? But it's the same thing on a run, which is if you are supposed to keep the outside leverage and not let them get to the outside, that's your job first and foremost, besides making the tackle. So a lot of times people run inside, but that's definitely what you want, is for them to run outside and set the edge. Force defenders will show more anticipation in the pursuit angles at the start of the play when facing quick hitting outside run plays, such as jet sweep and touch pass, which also makes sense, right? So let's say we're running a jet sweep, and yes, obviously if you run someone like Tyreek Hill, he's probably getting outside realistically. He might not get a lot of yards on it, but he's probably getting outside. But let's say you have TJ Watt on that edge, or JJ Watt, or Khalil Mack, these people that are very great pass rushers and just great players. As soon as they see a jet sweep come their way and they see the hike, they're jumping outside on that and, trying to make him at least run a little bit backwards if he is going to get outside. So I definitely like that anticipation that they're doing on that. Hammer and fill players who are defenders in the run fit responsible for the open gaps will take wider initial pursuit angles versus outside running plays that will help them get over the top toward the outside of the formation, which helps them from getting mirrored up by the blockers and other traffic. That's great as well. So basically, if you're not using your middle linebacker, he's not just going to stand inside and wait to get blocked. He's going to try to get outside over the gaps and, shuffle the way you would in real life and then come downfield, hopefully. Force defenders will have wider formation alignments in many base defensive formations, such as 3-4 and more. Plays with those base formations will have the force player aligned on the line of scrimmage instead of off the ball. So what it means is that if you're trying to get that guy to set the edge, he'll be closer to the line of scrimmage instead of maybe 3-4 yards back. Edge and force defenders will have wider gap integrity versus heavy wing tight end sets. With wider gap integrity basically means that you're going to try to keep that leverage as well. New improved blocking interactions with defenders disrupting running lanes by pushing blockers further into the backfield during engagements versus all run types. So they're trying to get not necessarily block sheds from that, but basically clog the gaps up a little bit better by pushing the blockers back into the hole or at worse angles for the running back. And the defenders will have better anticipation of the ball carrier's movement by taking smarter angles while after shedding blocks. Also very great, because a lot of times they just run in the wrong directions. You'll block shed, but then your guy is like clueless on the field and the guy runs right past you. So next up is tackling improvements. Now they wanted to make sure that the core tackling system is more accessible, is definitely what they say. So defenders will now be much more aware when they are engaged in blocks near a ball carrier, and they'll trigger tackle attempts, which is also very great. because what that means is you don't necessarily have to make tackle, but sometimes just getting off the tackle and maybe putting a hand on the running back sometimes allows another defender to get there. Maybe you slow them up, trip them up, things like that, and then someone else can actually make the tackle. Hit sticks and dive tackles have been tuned to make them more accessible and functional, all of which come together with our new breakdown tackles for a more intuitive defensive experience. So I like the idea of hit sticks and dive tackles being tuned. We'll have to see what they actually mean by that, because obviously they were ridiculous this last year. Location-based tackles. One of the new features is the location-based tackles. This is basically where you see them trying to get the first downs, fourth downs, touchdowns, basically like that. These tackling interactions make our players more aware of the field location and react accordingly to the pylon, sideline, first downs. Basically, with superstar abilities and player ratings, it'll help the awareness, or with the awareness and tackling, it'll come drive the outcomes of that. So what that means is, let's say I have a really good defender, they have a really bad running back. I'm going to be able to maybe stop them on those third downs where, in this year, it's really a 50-50. I know so many people would run secure tackler, and secure tackler, basically every time you tackle them with it, yeah, you'd make the tackle, but they would get 4 yards on it. So hopefully that is not going to be the case. Right here, zone drop coach adjustment. We're introducing a new set of coach adjustments that will allow you as a defensive player to customize the depth of your zone drops for underneath zone defenders. These coaching adjustments will give you the ability to change the drop depth of the flat hook and curl flat zones in increments of 5 yards up to a max of 30 yards from the line of scrimmage. When using these adjustments, keep in mind that all match zone logic will be disabled in all zone coverage plays, including the deep zone players. When facing a no-huddle offense, you could turn off these coach adjustments by using the reset play. So basically what this means is, if someone is beating you with corner routes, instead of you running curl flat and them still getting behind you, now if someone wants to run those corner routes, I'm going to be able to choose, I want my curl flat to play 20 yards back, and that basically would stop the corner routes, and then you would just have to guard the other routes and things like that. I don't know how easy it's going to be to make these adjustments, but I really like the way they're doing that. Seems like it could be a very great option, like I said, because it should be able to choose if you want to stop certain zones, right? So it's all underneath, so that means there's no deep zones that will make a difference, but all the over top zones, all the underneath zones should make a difference. Where the flat routes, maybe you want to play a flat route, but you want to play like 5 yards off or something, right? You could do it with increments, so that's pretty great. QB and passing improvements. So obviously, with the more balanced run game comes more reliance on the air attack. To ensure that players will have the tools they need to run more balanced offenses, they made improvements to throwing the ball. Throwing out of sacks, all QBs will have the ability to throw the ball while being tackled. Accuracy and power of the pass are dictated largely by physics, of course. The more likely the pass is accurate is the passing animation the QB is at the point of contact. If the arm or shoulder is hit during the pass, that also can affect the accuracy. Throwing out of sacks definitely takes some risk, which we definitely know. QB strength does come into a rating. The QB is hit in combination with the strength is the fumble, so that kind of sucks. But new to Madden 21 are under pressure throwing animations, which allows QBs to speed up their throwing motions when feeling pressure on deep passes. So throws of 40 or more yards. So basically, threat to impact prediction, meaning that by the time the pass has been initiated, if he thinks he's going to get hit by a defender, he'll use an under pressure animation, and then the QB's throw under pressure rating will modify both the accuracy and pass. So if you have a 99 throw under pressure and you have to get the ball in your hands quick, you're probably still going to throw, like good throws and things like that, which I definitely like, because a lot of times someone like, let's say an Aaron Rodgers, that happens, right? He breaks the sack, gets out, like kind of moving around in the pocket, can't break the pocket, but he sees someone open and just slings it right on a dime to the player. And I think that's definitely a real thing. Obviously, like I said, throwing out of sacks and things like that as well. QB branch out. So QBs can now quickly branch out of the drop back to throw the ball at any time. As soon as the QB receives the snap, if the receiver button is given, the QB will immediately branch out of his existing behavior and throw the ball to the receiver, which also includes play action fakes. QBs will also have more control to branch out of their drop back to scramble by moving the stick toward either 45-degree angle away from the line of scrimmage, while also re-enabling the controlled rollout movement, which you can toggle by tapping the R2 button. Along with this change, the quick throw inaccurate from Madden 20 has been turned off. That's amazing, because quick throw inaccurate is probably the worst thing that Madden ever put on, which basically meant if you ran certain plays and you threw it right away, it would count as a quick throw inaccurate, which is terrible because a lot of quarterbacks catch the ball and just fire it right away. Doesn't mean it's going to be inaccurate, but I like the idea of the branch out where basically, you know, you don't have to take a whole play action, or you don't have to take a 7-step drop or like a large drop. You can still take it. Even if you have a large drop on the play, you can still get out of it, which is realistic, obviously. Right here, accuracy and power tuning. With the variety of improvements done to passing, we also did some tuning to improve under pressure and cross-body pass accuracy to bring the balance to make sure inaccurate penalties more contextually appropriate the situation. We've added a new max distance passing power penalty, which will activate when targeting a receiver who is deeper than the QB's max passing distance. So basically, depending on how far you can throw with your throw power, depends on how inaccurate throws will be. If you can only throw 70 yards and the dude's 90 yards down the field, you're not going to hit it accuracy, obviously, which does make sense. Enhance the in-game passing feedback text so that the players will have a more transparent understanding about the result. Definitely like that, because a lot of times it'll say, you know, resisted pressure, and then you would throw like a terrible ball and it didn't really make any sense, right? So they also changed it so that handoff animations are the same speed either direction. Now, I know last year that is why a lot of people in Madden 20 were running punters at quarterback, is because they had, you know, their gold Eli Manning in the Mud Bowl handing off on the right side, and then a left-handed punter handing off on the left side because it was faster. Now, turning that off also helps, so hopefully, you know, people aren't wanting to do that as much. Pass interference and illegal contact. We've added support for a more robust management of user-controlled pass interference, and also for the first time, the illegal contact penalty. So the goal with these is preventing users from intentionally obstructing receivers from getting to their routes and or catch spot while trying to overlook incidental and unintentional contact. They will be used in competitive and simulation game styles and will be primarily on user-controlled defenses. So I really like this. What that means is a lot of times, let's say they're running for verticals, since there was no illegal contact, you were allowed to just kind of run in the way of these receivers. And I would do it a lot of times, let's say on like where Randy Moss had his ability, and I would just try to run into Randy Moss and put him 4 yards off of his route, because when you did that, obviously he couldn't get to the ball, but it wouldn't give you a penalty. Now that they're going to call penalties on that, I really like that, because it is a real thing in the NFL, right? Those are true penalties. So it should make it a little bit easier to sometimes get open, or maybe get some of those penalties. So defensive contain balancing. Popular strategies in Madden 20 was the contain blitz. Players told us this felt unbalanced because unblocked contained players were very effective pass rushers, but also very quick to react to scrambling QBs. So again, on the theme of balance, we've made some changes. When utilizing pass rush schemes that free up contained players from being blocked via an overload to either side, that player will now rush the QB at a slower speed than if he were not in the contain assignment, as long as the QB is inside the pocket and not using scramble movement. The contained player will move at a speed slow enough to read the QB with the intent to keep him in the pocket, but will not break into a full speed rush unless the QB starts to scramble. Also, an amazing thing, because truly, a lot of times when, you know, you're playing against a Russell Wilson or a Patrick Mahomes, you know, and not that they can't beat you in the pocket, but you don't want them to get out of the pocket and make these crazy big plays. So what you do is your DNs rush hard, but they stay outside. They're not really trying to go for the sack, because as soon as you clamp down, go for the sack, that's when they get outside of you, and that's when, you know, they're at their best, players like that. So definitely like the idea that it's not going to be able to do both. If you do want to contain and keep outside leverage, then it's going to be a little bit slower pass rush. And if you don't want to do that, then maybe I have a better chance to get out of the pocket. So this will bring balance by giving the defense the ability to quickly react to a scrambling QB with the unblocked contained player while giving up a little power in the pass rush, which is exactly what we wanted. Catching responsiveness. Like many of our features and improvements, Madden 21 has a strong focus on player control and agency. Catching is no different. We made a few tweaks to our catching system to offer more stick work towards making plays. Players can now dictate the direction they want to catch to take them as they secure the catch via left stick input. So when holding up vertical on L stick and using possession catch, you'll be selecting a possession catch that will fall in the same direction as your stick input, ensuring the receiver won't go to the ground short of the sticks. This increased control is also critical when throwing underneath routes, as the responsiveness allows receivers to quickly turn upfield after using a rack catch One obvious case to notice this improvement is when a receiver is nearing the sideline. This user will have the control to keep him in bounds as he turns upfield rather than running out of bounds. That sounds amazing. I really want to see how that works, but it sounds amazing because, like it says, if I'm on a 3rd and 9 and I throw an 8-yard curl route, I want to possession catch it, but it doesn't mean I want to fall back towards the line of scrimmage 3 yards. It means I want to catch it but fall backwards to the first down. So being able to choose where you actually want to fall, is going to be very good. And especially when you throw flat routes and things like that and your player just runs out of bounds, now we should be able to catch and choose which direction we want to catch in. So that should help with those short flat routes, drag routes, things like that. Right here, we got player personnel packaging. For those players who like to get creative in their formation personnel on offense, we've added a new way to use packages and formation subs while using audibles. The pre-play audible system now considers the actual personnel on the field. When changing your personnel in the play call menu, either via packages or formation subs, your pre-play audibles will now match the personnel package on the field. So basically, if you're using 12 personnel, which is 1 running back and 2 tight ends in a formation like gun, empty, flex, you will now be able to audible to any other formation in your playbook that also uses 12 personnel. For now, this feature only applies to the offense, but as it continues to evolve, we are looking for more opportunities to expand it upon it, which probably means that it's going to be on the same for defense at a certain point. I like that as well because, I definitely use this in franchise in some playbooks, and maybe it's not 100% accurate. Maybe just the playbooks I used in franchise it worked for, but I would go in a 5 wide gun empty flex with the 2 tight ends. And then I would go back to like a single back deuce close and trick people, right? Because they would think I'm coming out in gun empty. So they would go into like a nickel or dime. And then I would be able to come back to under center and run the ball. So I do like that they're going to be able to do that more often because that's true audibling and real, more chess-like gameplay. Right here, balance for repeated audibles, play flips in pre-play. Another aspect of bringing more balance to the run-pass ratio in Madden 21 is an authentic solution for spamming audibles and play flips by the offense before the snap until advantages alignment for the running play is found. The popular tactic will now carry some risk. The offense will now have the risk of the offensive line committing a false start penalty after the use of multiple audibles or play flips, and the chance of penalty will significantly increase with each additional audible thereafter. This penalty has been put in place to simulate the confusion an offensive player would likely have if the QB changed the play 3 to 6 times while sitting his pre-play stance? Sitting in his, I believe is what they wanted to say, pre-play stance the entire time, and it applies to all game styles and difficulty levels. This is also a great adjustment. As you guys may know, you guys might have played against this, someone comes out in gun bunch, and they flip it, then they flip it again, then they flip it again, and they basically are trying to get you to not be able to make your adjustments quick enough, or you just to stay screwed and leave it how it is. So I really like this adjustment, definitely. I think it's a great thing that they're putting into the game. And even with just flipping the run play, or let's say they motion the receiver back and forth, right? Trying to get your lineman or your linebacker to move or whatever the case is. Now you do have that chance at a penalty. I like that. Player fatigue for out of position ball carriers. Madden 20 was a year of the gadget play for many, but players told us that gadget plays were too frequently relied on as a primary source of constant offense. In response, you'll now have to strategically manage the workload for ball carriers who are not a primary running back or risk penalties to their ratings via fatigue. After a player who is not a running back by trade, such as a QB, wide receiver, or tight end, has carried the ball as a primary ball carrier on multiple consecutive players, the player will start to quickly deplete his stamina, especially on tackles and hit sticks. This risk applies to non-running backs in plays like Wildcat Power, Jet Sweep, Touch Pass, and QB Blast. As they get tired, you'll notice them become less effective on the field, regardless of their role. These players will need to be subbed out of the game if overused. If not subbed out, the players will continue to degrade. With this change is a significant reduction to fumbles by scrambling QBs on all game styles, except for all Madden competitive. However, as players start to get more fatigued, the likelihood of fumbling will naturally increase. So what they're saying is that if I just scramble once and run with the QB, I won't fumble every time. But if I run a couple times, I am going to fumble. So that's going to suck for Lamar users, especially read option users. I know people that really wanted to use the read option, and I feel like this is a huge detriment. I don't know how I like this. Because I personally had no issues with gadget plays, in my opinion. I think read option is definitely a part of the game. If you can't stop the read option, it shouldn't be a huge detriment to someone like Lamar Jackson, because he would run it every play if you can't stop it. But we will have to see how it actually plays out. Right here, kicking game tuning. We received feedbacks from players that some aspects of the kicking game were in need of some improvement. Here's a quick list. Kick meter on competitive game style has been tuned to be more skill-based, meaning it will be more difficult to get accurate kicks for competitive play, and missing the accuracy window will basically hurt you a little bit more. Kick power, wind impact have been tuned on simulations so that kickers and punters don't always launch unrealistically deep kicks, while the wind impact of the kicking game will be less significant. We tuned ball physics to bring more skid to the balls on kicks bouncing on the turf to make the coffin corner kickoff exploits, known in the community as the scum kick, much more difficult. So basically, if you kick it to the sideline, it's not going to just bounce anymore. Skid basically means that it's just going to bounce really fast to try and make it so that it'll just bounce out of bounds. Abilities improvement. In Madden 20, they put out the abilities. It's a ton of excitement and strategies. Not really. We also recognize that in the first attempt at adding in this game context, some of the abilities were a bit unbalanced. I would say so. So here's what they did to some of them. Wide receiver route ability balancing. Wide receivers had a number of abilities granting them strong catching bonuses on specific route types. These abilities, while strong, were difficult to use since they require detailed knowledge of your team's playbook or very specific hot routes that might not always be used. In Madden 21, we have reworked these abilities to grant their bonuses when the receiver catches the ball in specific areas of the field, regardless of the route. So basically, if you have like a deep catch passer, no matter if he runs a post, a go route, a deep out, anything that's maybe over 10 yards, it's going to work, right? Instead of it being like, just on out routes or anything like that. Coverage defender abilities. On the other side of the ball, we had the opposite issue. While coverage defender's ability in Madden 20, abilities like man up, zoned out, and universal coverage were essentially one-stop shops, it was too easy to pick up on one of these abilities on a defender and just set it and forget it. They didn't like how it was easy to make a defensive powerhouse with very little ability investment. Now they split up the abilities into multiple versions that grant their bonuses across specific areas of the field. So basically, if you want to play like flats really well, right, you'll play something like under 5 yards really well, or maybe you'll play deep coverage very well, but not just zone coverage or anything like that. Pass lead ability balancing. Pass lead abilities from Madden 20 were fairly polarizing. They allowed you to make some impressive plays and throw receivers open in the best of circumstances, but they can result in uncatchable passes that are out of reach. We have removed the increasing leading distance of the abilities, instead boost the ball's velocity when using the precision passing mechanic on the left stick in combination with the bullet pass. Basically, this greatly reduces the ability for defenders to make a play on the ball when making the correct read, and should prove to be a powerful perk for pocket passers. So what it means is if I'm throwing a quick out route and your defender's a little bit off, he's not going to be able to just dive it very fast. The ball is just going to come with more velocity if I lead it to the outside or things like that. So that is pretty much all of the news. So what we got right now, June 30th, we'll focus on Face of the Franchise as well as Classic Franchise. Now, this is just what we got right now. Like I said with the beta as well, you can't actually post any footage, so I will not be. You can't post any gameplay, stream it, do anything like that. So unfortunately, I will not be able to do that. But let me know what you guys think about all of this news. It sounds great. I really want to see what it's like in real time. I will be doing like a feedback video, hopefully on the beta, just not any actual gameplay. We have to see what the exact rules are for things like that. But that being said, guys, definitely drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe and turn on that post notification bell. And as always, I will see you guys next time.